So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Hartline, and I am the Dean of the College of Business. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to the 2019 Charles A. Bruning Distinguished Speaker Series. We're very happy to have you with us today. Before we start, would you take a moment to ensure that your phone is silenced so we can all give our speaker our full attention? I think I checked mine too. Several times each year, the College of Business invites top executives to share their insights on current business practices, emerging topics, and best practices. We believe these speakers add to the educational value of the experiences that we deliver here at College of Business. Today, we are especially delighted to have 1995 marketing graduate James Chef Barlow with us. I'd also like to take just a minute to welcome Chef's wife, Gretchen, who's right here. Absolutely. Their son, Ben, is over here. And Scott Meskin, who is Chef's executive assistant here. Thank you all for joining us today. And Billy Francis is here. He's the director of the Student Veterans Center, the Veterans Center at FSU. I don't know if you guys have ever met Billy, but he's here with us today too. There's seats, Billy. Come have a seat. Chef has had an extraordinary and an incredibly exciting career. He is the founder and CEO of Blue Air Training, the first weaponized civilian-owned Air Force in the United States. That kind of has a ring to it, doesn't it? The first weaponized civilian-owned Air Force in the United States. Blue Air employs reserve and retired military pilots who serve in combat on the air and on the ground. They provide contract close air support training to conventional and special operations personnel from all branches of the U.S. military. His company, which is based in Las Vegas, operates an impressive fleet of fixed and rotary wing aircraft and is experiencing tremendous growth across the country and around the globe. I'm very happy to tell you that this past weekend, Blue Air Training was honored for the second year in a row as #1 on the Seminole 100, which is our list of the nation's fastest growing businesses owned or led by FSU alumni. That's a remarkable accomplishment. The company was also named the 2018 Nevada Small Business Administration Veteran Small Business of the Year. Chef started Blue Air in 2011 following a 20-year career as a fighter pilot in the U.S. Air Force. He distinguished himself by flying 101 combat missions and was the first fighter pilot since Vietnam to fly 100 such missions during a single combat tour. That's absolutely incredible. I know you're as eager to hear from Chef as I am, so please join me in welcoming Chef Barlow.
All right, thank you very much, and I appreciate you all taking the time from everything else you could be doing here at the Florida State campus, which I love and miss, rather than coming in to sit and listen to me. So I appreciate it, and I appreciate your attention. So a little bit of vocabulary. We were at JMI looking at the EBV. Well, guess what military is? I'm sure you can imagine also has several acronyms and certain nuances. So I'll start by just introducing myself. So as chef, it wasn't that I was a cook, it's that I always had something cooking. And any fighter pilot has a call sign. We don't use real names. That way when they're beating up your buddy on the floor and he says, "Who did that?" you say chef, and it means nothing to them. So that's for me, my call sign. And then as far as Blue Air Training goes, when you schedule Air Forces, the red air is the bad guys and the blue air is the good guys. So I figured, well, whenever they're asking for who to schedule, Blue Air would just make sense to them. So that's really where the name came from. Those guys on the ground that you see there, I often get asked, so you train pilots? Absolutely not. We are the pilots. We are the Air Force. That's us, and that's the A-10 that I've flown my entire career. It's a close air support fighter, meaning if these guys are in a gunfight with someone over there at the base of those hills, from the air, it just looks like a bunch of dots and tracers flying back and forth. So from the air, you've got to quickly ascertain who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, and make sure that you help and not hurt the situation going on the ground. So there's an incredible amount of integration that goes on with the guys on the radio to explain who's who, where to put the bomb, and more importantly, where not to put the bomb. So that's what's going on there. And you've got the flight leads 500-pounders just went off, and you've got 2 more 500-pounders in the air. And the symbol for Blue Air Training that I made at the dining room counter many years ago to make that very point. Put the airstrike controller first, because that's who we focus on. The airplane is just a tool that we focus on. That JTAC is what they're called, to get those bombs and gun or rockets or whatever it is that day on the right target safely and efficiently. So that's basically what the company is, and a quick overview of the vocabulary. I've got a video coming up because no briefing's good without a video to kick it off, right? So, and plenty of epic music. You can never have too much epic music. So with that, you'll see a lot of moving parts in this video. You'll see airplanes, bombing range, explosions, guns, sensors. The point that I'm highlighting is that's all Blue Air Training. So we are that military piece that fills in all the training gap that the U.S. Department of Defense doesn't execute. So the new F-35 is more expensive than the entire space shuttle program in its history, and the F-35 just started flying. And so that costs $68,000 per hour to fly that airplane. So I told them I'd do it for 67. They didn't buy on it, so we settled for a much lower number. But it's more efficient for the Air Force to hire us to fly those training missions. And we just calculated it for something else. We've saved the U.S. taxpayer $287 million since we started this company in operational taskings, plus the time, less wear on the aircraft, more what we call head on the pillow time. These guys that are out in the field so often protecting our freedom, they're at home with their families more because of what we do. And that's our entire goal.
Prosecution on packs, all armed, IVO, Grub. That is a firm weaponry remain the same.
You guys want to watch that again? Because I can watch that on a loop. Yeah, so that's awesome. The guy on the 50 cal on infrared, that was actually Ben, because it's a family business. Nobody gets free lunch. So I'm not even kidding. So yeah, so that's what I flew in the Air Force, in Afghanistan. It's the A-10. It's the most powerful gun ever put on an aircraft in the history of the world. So you've got 70 rounds a second, and each one's about the size of a Coke bottle. So it was designed to shoot tanks, but it works well on bad guys. That's actually me in my jet with my name on it, with a Blue Air patch on my shoulder, because I knew I was retiring soon and would want that picture one day. So, and that was taken from the ground. Gretchen here, we actually spent the year in Afghanistan together, because where else do you go as lovers? And she took this picture after I landed from my 100th combat mission. That picture is the mirror image of a picture I took when I was 14 years old at the MacDill Air Force Base Air Show when I decided I wanted to be a fighter pilot. And I've got a picture with me with a 90s flat top, because it was cool back then, I promise, doing that very thing. And this is where we are today with our own fleet of weaponized Air Force aircraft. So we're going to just have a rolling, scrolling display of pictures for the next, 20 minutes. One, it keeps me from running over. And then two, you don't want to see words on the screen. So I'll just tell you the story. But what I will say is that these pictures are actually a photographic chronological documentary of the history of Blue Air training. So they're all in chronological order. You'll see some of airplanes. You'll see some of just shenanigans. People, you'll see like us in Stockholm, us in Afghanistan. So Gretchen was an Air Force pharmacist. So the point being is, as a business owner, as a founder, as an entrepreneur, there is no distinction. Your business is your life. It's your passion. It's what you do every minute of every day. And that was back before I made everyone start flying with helmets, but we made sure we got our selfies before we did that. So the point being is, it's a passion not only for you and it's for your family all the way down, and then for your extended family that become a part of that, like Scott has. He graduated in December. So how'd that all start? Go Noles. How'd that all start? Do you just wake up and decide, I'd like to be a CEO today? Sounds cool. No, it doesn't start like that at all. So when I was 11, I guess we broke it down. I started my first company, mowing lawns in the neighborhood. We decided we'd manage all the properties in our little neighborhood, and it was Lakeland at the time. And me and a couple buddies wrote up a little pencil proposal to the property management company. We'll mow all the lawns for people that aren't living in the houses. That'll help you sell your house. So did that. My stepdad rented me the lawnmower, which I was not happy about as an 11-year-old. Like, come on, I'm 11. Cut me a break, right? But no, you're starting a business. You've got to think about logistics, equipment maintenance, and he actually taught me a great lesson. Again, did I want to be a business owner? No, but I wanted to make $60 a week as an 11-year-old. So that's how that went. And it was something I just happened to see and thought, I can do that. So moving on from then and moving forward, I started saving money when I was 11 to go to college, Florida academic scholar, and it turned out that I could go to any school in the state of Florida, and Florida State was a slam dunk for me. It was the top ROTC unit in the nation, and half my school from Tampa went to Florida, half went to Florida State, and Florida State for me was a slam dunk. So, and then did that through college. I showed up at Florida State having, yeah, that happened. That's a parts bird. We didn't actually fly that one, but that's in Utah. So we got a lot of looks coming down the highway. That was our first office in a basement of a gambling store. Notice that airplane is in the parking lot. I'm in front of that airplane. So showed up to Florida State having saved since I was 11 years old. I'm excited to start college. I went to the Bank of America by Pensacola Street and pulled through the drive-thru. I said, I would like to withdraw $100, please. $100, because that's a lot of money. That's $100. And the lady says, you might want to come inside. I said, why? I've got 4 years worth of tuition I had actually saved up. And she said, no, you've got $48. And it turned out that I was a minor when I started that account. And so you need an adult. Well, that adult ended up stealing all that money. So, and I didn't find it out until I showed up for school. Like literally, it was rush week. And I'm here and I've got $48 whole. So thank God I had scholarship from Florida Academic Scholars, but that's, that was very little, and because I still have to eat and stuff. So I pledged Alpha Tau Omega fraternity, and then I also did ROTC, and then I also got 3 jobs. And because for me at the time, I didn't want to do loans. Although I will say, by my senior year, I decided to take a loan or 2, and I was thinking, this is so easy. You mean I can just be a student? but I built lofts and dorms. I broke down lofts and dorms. I did everything I could do. I worked at Chi-O, then Pi-Phi as a server because they have food there. It was just for the food. And then, and then I worked my way through school. I worked in the utility office for ROTC, issuing out boots and jackets and what have you. But I did what I had to, not because, hey, I want to be this one day. It was a necessity thing. So graduated Florida State, and my time, as far as timing in the military went, is there was a huge drawdown after the first Gulf War, and I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I decided when I was 14, there's no other option. I will be a fighter pilot, and it doesn't even really matter what I study. I could do basket weaving. It's fine. But, you know, it's probably a good idea to get, I don't know, a business degree or something, because that'll be a great fallback. Because every aspect of life is business. Even deciding where we're going to go for dinner. Where do you want to go? What's our negotiation? Okay, we did this. Where do we? And it's a discussion. And just those interpersonal skills that I learned in ROTC, the leadership of peers that I learned at ATO, and the foundation here from the business school set you up for that. So I knew I wanted to be a business major, and that's what I ended up doing. Well, I turned out to be 112 in the nation for the 100 pilot spots they had. So that meant I got to go do business. And my first job in the Air Force was a contracting officer, which I hated. I want to be a fighter pilot. I want to drink whiskey, wear whatever he's wearing, and be in a movie. I want to do that. So, But contracting officer actually negotiated construction contracts, managed construction contracts, bought things on my biggest acquisition was $54 million at 22 years old. I had no business dealing with those kind of numbers, but Air Force, you just got a degree in business from Florida State, so go do business. So I did that for 2 years, and then I went to apply on active duty. So statistically, it's actually easier. You have better odds to be an NFL player than you do to be a fighter pilot in the Air Force. There's a better chance you play in the NFL than there is to be a fighter pilot. So I remembered back when I was a kid, that's me in the jet for that movie. The cool part on that video at the end of, what was that movie? Range 15. It was so low that when I went by, their hair moved, so that was cool. But when I was 14, I called and said, hey, how do I become a fighter pilot? And they said, well, what you got to do is get great grades, get accepted, graduate #1, and then pick your fighter. That's all. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So I think for me, that's something that was an asset. Gretchen would argue maybe it's hard-headedness. I think it's stick-to-itiveness. But the fact of the matter is being able to set yourself up on a goal and understand that it's not easy. If it's worth doing, and especially if it's never been done before, it's going to be hard, and you're going to want to quit. I'll tell you, there are times where we said, oh man, couldn't we not do this anymore? But you can't. You're in. And that's why you have to do a business that's your passion, because there will be days that you don't want to get up out of bed, and there'll be days where it's way harder than anyone ever told you it was going to be, but you don't have that choice. Because as a founder, as a CEO, you're like the father of a big family. And everyone that works for you, their families depend on the decisions you make. So you don't have the luxury of sitting on your ass and not getting the job done for these people. You are personally responsible for them. So when you pick what business you want to do, think about the logistics and think about the longevity. So there are plenty of businesses that are phenomenal businesses, but they never succeed, not because it wasn't put together well, not because the structure was wrong, not because they weren't funded, but because they're not around long enough. They're not around long enough to actually succeed. You don't actually start making money for years. Our first 5 years as a company, we made how many dollars in 5 years, you think? Anybody? Zero. Not a single dollar for 5 years. You want to test your will? How's that? 5 years, $0. And maintenance and engines and blood, sweat, and tears. And you know what? That staying power is what lets you be around long enough between all the engine changes, between all the maintenance, between all the lost opportunities or not. You've got to stick to it. You got to do it smartly. So preserving what you have, preserving your assets, and investing in your people as much as your equipment. So from there, that's our attack helicopter. Gretchen going for a ride in that. Trick is you don't want to hang your hand out the window because the minigun's right there. But I challenge you to show up somewhere, get out of your own attack helicopter, and not crack a smile as you walk up to whoever you're meeting. You can't do it. It's impossible. I've tried. You can't not crack a smile showing up in your own attack helicopter. So moving forward, we decided we're becoming a business. We're doing our thing. You got to ground test them. You just have to. So we're moving forward. We're doing our thing. And our first big contract, as I was actually on active duty still. So I was a full-time Air Force fighter pilot. On active duty, I got an opportunity to go ahead and retire, and we had no contracts. So with no contracts means, again, no money. And Gretchen was out of town, and she just happened to get to some little rum bar that had Wi-Fi. She was on a trip with her sister. Very happy they had rum there because we talked about it, and she said, you know what, just retire. You need to be full-time. You need to pour yourself into this company. You've been doing it for years now as a part-time effort. They're prima donnas. As a part-time effort, and no one can do it like you. No one can sell your business like you sell your business. No one knows it like you. So you have to be there every minute of every day, 100% dedicated to it. So I retired. I'm out. Jumped over the side. No job. I was test flying that jet in the mock loop in Wales, and there's photographers above me on the mountains taking picture. So I bought it, but that was a lot of fun. So you've got to make decisions on what you do. So I retired. I go into 100%, no contracts, and 6 weeks later, 6 weeks, we won the contract to train all of Air Force Special Ops Command worldwide. And I'm very happy because I would have been at a hot dog stand. First time we get an actual, real truck. So the truck on the left, it was our first truck I bought for $700 plus I did a guy's taxes for him. It was a 1990 Chevy K1500. And then we bought, and this is our, across the country, this is what we have now is the F350 diesel four-wheel drive. So that's what we have. So it was cool. And then with the kids, putting the logo on the first real truck. This is a patented gun pod I designed. It's a little bit steampunk, but it works great. The other option is a $250,000 asset from Dylan. So innovation, resources versus resourcefulness. So making that happen and having good people around you to make that happen is absolutely key. Because there will be times where you look at, that's Ricky Bobby on the left, when you look at somebody and say, hey, what if you were CEO today? How'd you play this? And you know what? They probably have pretty good insight. Because sometimes you're so close to it, it's tough. It's tough to back out when it's in your own face. So relying on that team, but always maintaining your own command. Because at the end of the day, it's you. You're the one that makes the decisions at the end of the day. But you've got a lot of smart people. So recruit them, train them, and listen to them. But you make the decision as the CEO. So we fast forward. We started training AFSOC and all those Strike Master jets. That's what they're called. It's a British attack jet. And then we moved forward with our props. And then last year and a half, 2 years ago almost, I decided, you know what? Turboprops are the way to go. Because I see the writing on the wall. We need something powerful and efficient. So that's us in Stockholm, looking at one of the airplanes, and this guy, he's as crazy as he looks. But he was the broker for the Finnish Air Force. We had to meet in Stockholm to buy out the fleet of the Finnish attack airplanes. So that was his personal one that he got from the deal. So we call it workations. You know, we went over there, we bought out 9 aircraft from the Finnish Air Force, plus all the parts, machinery, what have you, from the factory that makes them. And so now we're actually producing some of our own aircraft from those parts and equipment and licenses. So we rebranded that as the A90, and that's our own aircraft now. So with that, you know, seeing where the market is going, seeing how you can most efficiently do it, and then looking forward for 2 years. Funny story. So that's a buddy of mine, Tony Shea, and we were doing something together, and that's our intern from FSU that we hire. We hire an FSU grad every year, and so he liked Tony, so we were out, and he goes, "Let's go have lunch." So we went to Popeye's Chicken with Tony Shea, and Dustin wanted a picture. So there you go. But anyway. Seeing where the world's going to go and trying to get there first is the key to innovation, for us at least, and being able to do things that other people can't do. So now we're in a process of bidding contracts. We're leading the industry, and we actually do 100% of the Air Force's live weapons training for JTACs CONUS-wide, countrywide. And we're moving forward, but now we're waiting on award of a contract for $6.34 billion, which should come out any day now. They're a month late announcing it anyway, and then we'll go forward and do that contract for the next 10 years. But the specs to that contract, 80% of the work is for a light turboprop attack aircraft, the very ones we bought 2 years ago. So now those aircraft are flying, they're ready, and out doing missions. So with that, you know, the future, we're bringing them from this, which is still, I mean, round gauges are great, glass cockpits, tactical data link. So we have tactical data link that the F-35, that $68,000 an hour airplane, doesn't even have. So we'll have better tactical data link. We've got rockets, we've got 50 cals, we've got bombs, laser-guided training rounds, and then also laser sensors. So, you know, in the movies when they're holding the laser up, we can actually see that in our jets, and we broadcast that footage down to the JTAC on the ground to see it. So the innovation, nothing's cooler than a 50 cal on your wing. But having that innovation, having that foresight to see where the market's going to go, and then getting there before your competition is also absolutely key. So that's kind of where we've been, the journey we're on. What questions does anyone have, or any topics you'd like to talk about? Anything from anybody? That's a good question. So we don't actually do operational missions. We do training missions. And we've had the phone calls before. We've been called by a couple 3-letter agencies to go do things in Africa, northern Mexico. That's not what we're here for. And that actually is a good segue. We're here to train our troops to go to war and come home safely and protect all of our freedoms. I'm not Blackwater. I don't want to go do contingencies. We've all done that. We've all been overseas. We've all spent a lot of time away from our family. We're using these assets right here to train them so they can do it safely. So no, we don't do actual contingency operations, and we're actually at a point right now where we're managing our bandwidth because we've got so much that the world wants us to do. I got 4 countries 2 weeks ago that contacted us to do work for them and train their entire countries. Canada, New Zealand, Saudi, and Oman want us to train their entire country. But I can downgrade the quality, or I could limit the bandwidth. So I'm limiting the bandwidth because at the end of the day, all these guys, Toole is our chief pilot. You know, we've been friends. We were friends for 10 years before I knew his first name was Scott, and that was only because Gretchen was booking him a ticket. But we have fun. We spend time together. We play burning pianos. We have an amazing culture, and it's important that you as the founder and me as the CEO, we do the right amount of work and what we want to do. So we don't do anything overseas, and we're looking to do exactly the right amount of work so that everyone can be happy and take care of our families as well. What else? I hate to use the word no. So what I'll say is I do most of our business development, and we actually don't market. I think our marketing budget last year was $1,200 because everyone knows who we are, and that's based on our quality and based on having that innovation and being the only one that can do something. We're the only weaponized Air Force in U.S. history, but now that there's, you know, the word billions being thrown around, people are throwing money at that, trying to get into the market. We've got a competitor who's actually 4 former Blue Air employees that were terminated. They started their own company in violation of their non-compete, and they're patting themselves on the back for just doing some things that we did in 2013. So my position on that is, 1, if they were any good, I wouldn't have fired them. 2, I'm going to press that non-compete anyway. And 3, we have changed and evolved so much in the last year and a half collectively since they all worked here that we're a different company. We've changed corporate offices. We get new aircraft. We do the company Scott stepped into on January 3rd is not the same company that we're going to be in a year from now. We're evolving that fast. So as far as the marketing goes, so long answer to your short question, the marketing piece of it is very targeted and mostly it's client management as they try to come to us. But as we grow, I didn't think I would need 3 full-time travel managers. I didn't think I would need a chief of staff on site, you know, staff legal sitting 8 feet from my desk. But we're growing and we try to stay flat. We built the structure and then we're fleshing it out as we grow. And it's, you know, when you're a little kid, you get a little chubby and then you grow, you get a little chubby. So I think I'm gonna grow soon. But that's kind of how, as a company as well, you know, pre-position, we've got more people on staff right now than we need, so that way we can execute as soon as that $6 billion contract hits. We do both. So the concept was that we would bring the aircraft to the JTACs so that they could stay at home, go out in the field during the day, and be sitting at the counter with mama and the kids at night. And that's good for their well-being as well. We also run a charity foundation to combat the veteran suicide problem. So that distance is a factor in their off-duty time as well. So that went into the equation, that we could be there for them and go to them. However, in the video, you saw that whole battle space, that's ours as well. So I put 14, again, out of necessity, 14 different gold mining tracks that started to be mined in the 1894 and around out in the Nevada desert, put that all together as a tactical training complex. So we've got 5,000 acres out there. I've got 3 HLZs, helicopter landing zones. I've got an Air Force surveyed drop zone for parachuting. I've got cave complexes. I've got a shoot house. We do medical training out there. And so it's a full mission profile that we provide if you want to come to Nevada. But most of the time we are on Department of Defense bombing ranges and bringing the fight to the clients. And we're based across the country. So Olympia, Washington, Las Vegas, of course, Yuma, Arizona, We just got 63,000 square feet at Pensacola International Airport, and then we're looking at Tampa and Oak City as well as Bogota and Wales. Get Scott. All right, so we didn't talk about today. I've also got Goose. So I've also got a shoe company, Ross and Snow, which actually the picture that's out there was a promo picture for the shoes. So Ross and Snow shoes are handmade Italian leather shoes, which is a project with me and Fred Mosler and Tony Shea. Actually, Gretchen's in charge of that one. Sorry. So Gretchen's in charge of that one with Tony Shea, Fred Mosler, to do Italian shoes. Tony and Fred are the guys that founded Zappos. So you might have heard of that. And then we've got a power drink that's coming out, energy drink. Same guy that did Core Water. It's Outlaw Energy. We got the Charity Foundation. We've got Luxury Yacht Adventures, a yacht charter company. All those things are things that we do and know well, or we like to do, and I wear shoes, so it's a perfect fit. But to answer your question, how do you manage it all? It's a team concept. It's like playing basketball, pass back and forth and go with that. And then at some point, as you start to get several companies as the CEO or founder, you kind of have to step back. So we had an initiative for the past year and a half to identify and eliminate all single points of failure. Several of those were me. So if you're trying to grow your company and you can only do what you can put your arms around, well, guess what? That's all you can do. So I divested some of my core tasks, and we actually ended up creating 5 positions because I was doing 5 different jobs. So now I'm not the single point in charge of, I have no personal projects. So R&D department, we hired the engineer who was in charge of airworthiness for the entire Air Force. She retired after 33 years, came to work for us. She actually used to be our inspector. So we've got a lot of people that used to manage us that actually want to work here, which is an incredible honor. And it's a testament to you as a company. Do the people you work with want to work with and for you? So I put someone in charge of all those positions, and now my job is just to sit back and like the plate and the stick. Okay, we're good, and not spend too much time on one thing, or else your plates are going to fall. Do you want to answer that one? I see. I got a teeth cooling reaction in the front.
He does love the hands-on.
I do.
If he could work on the airplane.
Yeah,
turn wrenches, he would do that.
But there's an important aspect to that. So I believe in the lead from the front concept, right? How many times does CEO sound as a bad thing? Oh, the CEOs. Oh, the head shed. Those guys. What do they know? Well, I go out in the field. I actually did my AMP training, which is your aircraft mechanic license, 3 years of mechanic training. Not that I could do maintenance, but so I can manage maintenance and I can have credibility. So again, with following your passion, you have to be passionate about it enough that you do it because you want to and not because you have to. So I get out in the field. I load bombs. Gretchen's checked out on loading bombs to, building bombs, loading guns, changing tires, working in the field. Ben's been mopping the hangar floor since he was probably 6. So it's that personal commitment, and the employees like it. It means something to them because you're not there just to make money off them. You're there to make business with them, and it's a huge difference, and it helps the culture and helps the buy-in. And you can't buy buy-in. Giving people more money. I don't know if you know anything about Gretchen. So Gretchen was a doctor of pharmacy. She was a director at United Healthcare and ran their prior authorizations department. She had 1,000 employees that she supervised and cared for 21 million patients for United. So Her and Fred made a pact that June of 16, he'd leave Zappos and Gretchen would leave United, and Fred would do the board in his 80 companies, and Gretchen would be our executive manager. So the key is that passion and making it the biggest family business, and you can't get that buy-in by just giving people money, because that's what they tried to do with her. They were just throwing money at her, which was awesome. But at the same, but no kidding. Like she'd have projects, and she worked once 30 days straight, 16-hour days, and she officed at home. And I walked in, she's got her headset on, and tears coming down her face. I'm like, why are you doing that? You could have the same tears stressing about the company that we own and that we have. So that's when she jumped over the side. Like, oh, you're gonna have tears. I'm sorry, that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen. But you might as well do it for your own business and your own passion. Yeah, no, that's actually illegal. Although I could argue what we do is expressly illegal as well, except for us. So I'll take that one back. But there's something called Title 10 that you have to legally be on Title 10 orders with the Department of Defense. Ben is in the reserves. He flew this week. He's stationed down at MacDill, and for him to go to contingency operations, they have to bring him from Title whatever it is as a reservist to Title 10 to participate in combat operations. So that's a big one to swing that. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't permit it in my company, but I don't run everyone's companies. But I don't. That's a pretty far bridge. If there's mercenaries run around Africa, there is. And other countries use those against us as well. But I don't see that one going on, other than like some special like CIA stuff, but they'll bring you on to be we've got a couple CIA guys on staff. So they'll bring you on to like, as basically they'll deputize you to give you that legal status, but not just hire a company to go make bad guys go away. I'd love that, because that's the devil's money. That whole thing of doing a raise. Oh, I'll do a raise. I'll get $100 million. Yeah, that's the devil's money. You don't want, you're your own business leader. But for us, particularly, we're doing a deal. We were gonna buy 19 Block 12 Kafirs, which for the aviation folks in the room is it's a French Mirage that the Israelis have souped up, and we were gonna buy 19 of them, which aren't cheap. So we were going to do a raise. We started it in December of the previous December, so December 17, and we started a raise, and we had money knocking down the door because, hey, this is a great idea. You're a proven company. You have little to no debt. Everything looks great, and they all wanted a piece. That money's not free. It's the most expensive money you can get. So we got a couple offers. One the top one that we looked at for a little bit was our full request. The guy putting the deal together, his commission was $1.2 million, which made me think about my career choices. But we decided not to do it because they also wanted 35% ownership of the company. They wanted 2 board seats. So even though they'd be a junior position in shares, they wanted to be able to run the board, and you could actually get fired from your own company. So we still own 72% of our company, and it's a great position to be in because we can say no. There's nobody pushing us. So most owners and founders, by the time they get, we started this in 08, reincorporated it in 11. By the time they get this far downstream, they own maybe 12% on average, and they're happy not to get fired at their own company. But guess what? You still have to put in all that passion, blood, sweat, and tears. But now you're working for 12 cents on the dollar. So we did commercial debt, and we did a small amount of commercial debt. So we've got very little debt. We've got probably the cost of 2 airplanes in debt, and we own and operate 23 of them. So we cash flowed it. Our initial investment, I'll say it to this group, not really public to the world, but our initial investment, we put in $150,000. Fred put in $400,000, and that was it. Go start an Air Force. Good luck. So, right? That's enough to get metal business cards made and make it look like you got game, which is exactly what I did, because when you're small, look big. Yeah, so we did a little bit of commercial debt just to flesh out the fleet we bought from Finland, and then we waited for the contract to go. But our entire life at Blue Air, we grew methodically, and we took on very little equity, and have a very small amount of commercial debt. Yeah, our vessel. So it started out. As so our East Coast Blue Air operation was growing, and we decided to we were going to get a condo in the Destin area, and then we decided a buddy of ours said, "Oh, I want a condo." Well, I want to get in, and then we were talking about 3 condos, which doesn't make sense. So we figured we'd go to a yacht, because then it's a floating condo that's big enough for everyone to be on. And then you don't want to pay for your own, so you got to make, let's make it a business. So I'm a boat guy, love to fish. I know you won't believe it, but I used to actually compete in spearfishing up to about 4 or 5 years ago. So it was a passion for me. It was something I really enjoyed. So we decided the best way to do that would be to make it a business and actually have other people pay for it. So I then found out there's really you can't actually make money in yachting, because as soon as you make something, you've got to repair the boat. I figured with 23 fighter jets, I'd be fine, because how could it possibly be as expensive as a fighter jet? Surprise. So, but yeah, so that's how we got into it. We wanted to do it, and then we decided to make it a business. Now it has been good as far as taxes and depreciation on the vessel, to get a negative K1 to offset a positive K1. So that aspect kind of makes it pencil, but I'm still trying to sell that to Gretchen. So when you have multiple companies, you get, instead of a W-2, like I used to get when I worked at Po' Boys, you get your W-2, and then it has a positive number on there, because nobody pays to work in a general sense. So as a business owner, you get a K1. So that's your W-2, but as an owner. So when you get all your companies together, you stack up all the K1s, you add all your pluses and minuses, and whatever you come out to at the end is your tax, what you pay in tax, in the most generalist sense. Dean Hartline's rolling his eyes at me like, oh, yeah, so it does,
Yeah.
My primary business is so successful that I need some, I could use a negative K1. Most of our business partners are like, they've got nothing but negative K1s, so there is an aspect of that to it. I don't want to keep you all day, but I will sit here and answer any questions you have. So as far as robotics in the military, I've said several times, based on the venue, that really we're an innovation company that happens to fly airplanes and drop bombs. So we own 2 patents. One for a 7.62 gun pod. So it's a machine gun pod that we designed to put on the aircraft. So what you saw, but we're actually redesigning it right now for like a Block 2, to where it's actually got an electro-pneumatic system to charge the weapon, actuate to safety. So very mild robotics in that. It's more pneumatics on that aspect. But as far as the aviation piece, we see what the Air Force is doing, and we talk to them. Where would you like to be? What are you trying to go to? And we put it in fighter, pilot, and special ops sense, and we ask them, hey, what's cool? What sounds cool to you? What would you like to do? And they'll just start throwing things out there. We were at a meeting 2 weeks ago for the Joint Close Air Support Conference worldwide, and all of the top tacticians for forward air control from around the world were in a room. I was the only civilian there. because we still get to participate as a company in military tactics development. And they were all complaining that they didn't have indirect fire, like artillery. They didn't have indirect fire training. So from the meeting, I'm on Slack, which is what we use for communication, and I slacked my lead weapons guy and asked, hey, can we get a 105 towed howitzer? Because it would look awesome behind my Jeep. And he's, are you sure? So what about mortars? So the training aspect of it is an actual round that goes up into the air stack where all the airplanes are flying around. And the tactical training issue is to how do I get this artillery shell through all my airplanes without freaking out the pilots and risking safety. So we got on board and we've already got quotes and sources for 81 millimeter mortars with a smoke round so we can simulate a whole battery. But that innovation, whether it's robotics, whether it's as simple as buying artillery pieces and shooting them across the range in simulation, is listen to the market, listen to the clients and ask them, what would you like to see? And quite often they don't say, hey, you should go buy an 81 millimeter mortar and get the marking and the IR looms. What they'll say is, this is what we're needing. So you got to listen to them, interpret it, digest it, and then take it one step farther, because by the time your lead time hits, they've caught up with you. So that's what we try to stay positioned for. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So we have a reception next door in Whitecelt. If you'd like to come over and join us for refreshments, and Chef and the family will be there. You can ask more questions there. Here's your lovely gift.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chef. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.